There's your eardrums. Sorry about that. As you can maybe see, I'm charging with 2 kilowatts, 2 and a bit kilowatts, and maximum voltage is 4.35 volts, and the minimum voltage is 3.41 volts. The voltage difference is 14 millivolts. So the old Daly can do it with the knackered old grade B LiitoKala crappy cells. It can keep them in balance. 85.1% state of charge, maybe. It's 5 to 11 at night, and I'm just keenly waiting on the active balancer to kick in because we're close to it, and then I'm going to bed. Dogs are walked and tucked up. Last smoke of the day, and bed. So, pumping in the amps at the moment. Don't know why you can see at the top of the screen the amperage always fluctuates from like 30 to 60 amps, 30 to 60 amps, 30 to 60 amps, but with my amp meter it's bang on charging with 40 amps. It's one glitchy little thing with the Daly, but the amps do hum up and down. Same with the power kilowatts there, you see it floating up and down, whereas actually I'm charging with about 2 kilowatts. Yeah, the inverter says 2.1 kilowatts, whereas this one, it just went down to 0.6 then, and that's 1.9, 2.2 kilowatt hours. You know, it's just a bit of a glitch with the old Daly. And we're still not balancing. Quite chuffed with Big Red. So right into the knee of the charge curve now, the real big steepy bit right at the top. And I'm still only 21 millivolts of a difference in the cells. Really quite chuffed with that. Life in those cells yet. As you can see, in around about, I don't know how long these have been going now, about a year probably. Done 254 cycles, which is me charging when we've got the sunshine, just running around turning the plug socket on and off like a fucking dafty. I will get automated one of these days. Like that then for the old Daly. Hey, how'd you like that? People say Daly BMS can't keep things in check and all balance. 90.4% state of charge, 90.5% state of charge, and I've got maximum voltage of 3.459 volts. Balance has only just kicked in, and I've only got a cell deviation. What's that? 15 millivolts. Just flicked you there. Balance has just turned off and back on again. Charging with 2 kilowatts. Really quite chuffed. The name of the game for this evening was to get the battery as nearly fully charged as possible. Charging with 40 amps. And if the balance was at all bad at all, I was gonna turn the charging current on the inverter down to 2 amps so that it can just sit there and have a trickle charge and a gentle tickle to try and get things in balance. But it's looking really good, and I don't think that'll be necessary. And 30 millivolts deviation, and we're right up there in the steep part of the knee of the charge curve. So it's looking really good. Fingers crossed. Keep on pumping it in, and I'll be able to turn this down and go to bed soon. Balance has just turned off. Balance has just turned on. So the old Daly's quite happy. As you can see, it's down the bottom that she falls to pieces. Just had a low level alarm and a cell low level alarm. Deviation was freaking massive, so the minimum voltage was well down to 2.5 and maximum was like 3.1 something. So the bottom balance of this pack is total shit, but the top looked alright. This was me being optimistic, and I put my discharge voltage on the minimum discharge voltage on the inverter down to 46 or 47 volts, 46 volts. And that's obviously taking the piss, and the cell deviation right down the bottom is too low. Nothing's hot and running away. Nice 17 degrees to cell 14. That was the naughty one. And I've been keeping a note of things previously, what cells have alarmed out and triggered, and cell 14 has been a naughty boy before. So chuck some charge back into it. and see how it goes. Bye for now. And we're nearly charged again. Solar powered this time. Long story to that one. I'll confession video coming shortly. How I didn't burn the place down, I do not know, but I am no longer charging off of the grid when the sun shines, off of the grid tied house system. I've chucked a load of solar panels out in the garden. So we are currently charging with a good old dollop. And as you can see, I'm at 99.1 state of charge, up 83 amp hours capacity, and all of the cells are glued together with a deviation of 13 millivolts, and we're up into 3.439 volts, 3.44 maximum, and 3.425 is the minimum. I've really got grass to cut, but I'm kind of interested to see how this goes. We're so very nearly at the top. Very well, nicely balanced with the old dilly dally. Let the sun shine. Onwards and upwards. Well, that's the balance that just kicked in. getting right up there now. 3.478 volts is the highest, with a deviation of 36 millivolts, and it is cell number 14 that is the highest. So see if see if it runs away now. 55.3 volts sum total. Fingers crossed. Punch this and see how it will go before it all quits out. To be continued. Maybe. Yeah. And they're splitting apart now. Now at 70 millivolts deviation, 3.54 with a pack voltage of 56.2. Solar's still pumping in at 1.3 kilowatts. Cell number 7 is the highest one now. What's cell number 14? So that's good that it's flicking between the two. Still trying to balance it, obviously. What will be really interesting here is a little cloud. What will be interesting is, obviously, now that I'm on solar, I have set the overall voltage, a float voltage, and an equalization voltage in the inverter. Whether or not I reach those voltages before my cell deviation gets too big and I have the cell maximum voltage protect kick in, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. I put my multimeters amp CT clamp on the balance leads of the Daly BMS, but there's so little current going through them that it doesn't measure anything, just background interference sort of thing. So I can't tell you what it actually balances with. It'll be really interesting if the inverter does go into float and the equalization, and it just sits there at the constant voltage, and the amps taper right off, and it'll be interesting to see what the balancer does then. I've not got any load running at the moment. All the fridges, the fridge to freezer, I've plugged that back into the grid for today until I get over this little hiccup of melting plugs, overloading 3-pin sockets. Never mind. Nice cloudy spell now. The inverter's gone quiet and the charging current's dropped down to 5 amps, 4.7. So that gives the cells a little bit of breathing space to equalize out a little bit, because the cell deviation with the voltage sag has gone back down to 25 millivolts now. So they're still not fully absorbed. As Andy in the off-grid garage would say, the voltage hasn't stuck yet. So we'll see how it goes. I've really got to cut my grass, so don't get many dry days in Scotland. There we go. Oh, I missed it. I literally just can turn my back for a minute and I missed it. That's the old Daly BMS cut in for maximum cell voltage on I'm going to say cell number 7. I don't know if I caught it in time. I literally just dashed up for a couple of minutes to check on mother and then came down. Oh, there we go again. I have to check and see what I've got my cut off and recovery voltages set at. We're going to keep on going into maximum and minimum But the actual cell deviation, once the cell maxes out at 3.65, the actual cell deviation isn't too bad. I've seen a lot worse out of this Daly BMS. So that's quite encouraging. I might let it run, cutting in and out, and see how we go. See what I can squeeze into it. See what settings I can get to. The inverter doesn't seem to mind. I thought it might, with the BMS cutting off the charging MOSFET circuit side of things, I thought the inverter might get upset, but it's just throttling up and throttling down and throttling up and throttling down. Whatever solar's available. I've nearly reached the floating voltage anyway. Nice shady spell to take the sting out of the sunshine. 4.6 amps outside. Oh, here we go again. So that'll be good if we get a sunny spell, shady spell, sunny spell, shady spell. It'll give the cells a break. Because at the moment, we'll just give it a little tickle. What's my highest cell? Highest cell is number 5. Wow, that's a new one. There's a multimeter dying. Where is number 5's balance lead? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And the multimeter can actually detect 0.15 of an amp. Yes, 0.15 of an amp. So 150 milliamps of balancing power going on at the moment. Cell number 5. But having said that, I'm amazed that it's actually quite as equal as they are, so high in the state of charge that I am. Nice shady spell, so it's just going to tickle there and absorb at 3-4 amps. But then we get a sunny spell, 2.4 amps outside, yes. But then we get a sunny spell and whoop, up it ramps. It's really quite cool. Right, that is actually quite shady now. Oh, turning eyes. Sunny spell. Oh, 18 amps. Alright, excuse the huffing and puffing. That's me just cut some of the grass and just jumped up to have a quick look at this. Excuse me. And it's still firing up and turning off and firing up and turning off, but the cell deviation has now got worse. It is up to 0.2 of a volt, so 226 millivolts. The sun is absolutely booming outside. It's a lovely day. I'm not going to reach the voltage that I set in the inverter for a float voltage, so I might give that a little tickle down. Whatever, 3.582, 3.58 for the maximum voltage is, whatever that is, divided by, sorry, multiplied by 16. Go with that. No, that's crap. I'd have to go by the average voltage, 3.4. So I don't know. I'll take a guess at it. See how it goes. Right. Right, I'm being extremely wasteful, and I've just run in and I've filled the kettle up and I'm boiling a full kettle of water because I reached a point where one cell had obviously reached a fully charged. The sum voltage wasn't reaching the setting I'd put in the inverter for float voltage, and the charging MOSFET was turned off and the cells weren't going to sag low enough for the charging MOSFET to turn back on, and I was waiting forever and ever and ever for the charging MOSFET to turn back on and take some solar power. So I ran in and turned the kettle on to burn a little bit off, because the other thing that I've noticed, which is a bit pants really, is that once the charging MOSFET turns off, so does the balancing. I thought it would make sense for it to sit there with no load, no solar coming in, and sit there and balance, but Daly doesn't seem to. It just turns off with the charging MOSFET. So I'm boiling the kettle, wasting some energy, going to charge it back up and see it again. But there's plenty of power to waste. It's absolutely gorgeous day. Going to go and do some more mowing after a coffee and a smoke. Catch you in a bit. I literally just started cooking dinner about 5 minutes ago in the little countertop oven. It's quite surprising that the voltage sag that's on the cells when it kicks in, that's it, just fired up. Discharging with 23 amps, and the old voltage does sag right down to 3.2 in a little bit. When I first started dinner, this was absolutely peaking at the 3.65. And within 5 minutes it sagged down to the 3.285 maximum voltage. And then when the thermostat on the oven trips out or cuts out, the voltage comes back up. Comes back up to about 3.3. Not much solar coming in at the moment. It's all clouded over, which is how come I'm cooking off of the battery. Yeah, so the voltage bounced back up to 3.314. That's that, just kicked in again. So it'll be interesting to see what I've left with at the end of cooking dinner. Just a quick and easy one this evening. A couple of pizzas and a salad. But you don't want to know that crap. But it'll be interesting, as I said, it'll be interesting to see what I'm left with. Because then I'm going to make sure that nothing's on any load or anything like that overnight, just to check that the old panels, the old-fashioned panels, don't backfeed and drain the battery, just in case I need to put blocking diodes on the panels, because they are old-fashioned sort of generation 1 panels, but they're still kind of working. Alright, see you later. Well, that's not too bad at all. Cooking dinner didn't take too big a bite out of the overall state of charge, so still quite a good dollop left in the old thing tonight. So what I'll do is I'll put the inverter off onto standby and see what it's like in the morning. Not going to get any more charge in it now. I mean, it's 7:30. There's no power left in any of the sun. The sun's setting. So that's all she wrote for today. You can see there that only 4 millivolts of deviation in the cells. Everything's nice. 3.33 volts is what it recovered to. Quite cool. Right. See you later. Hello peeps, it's the morning after the night before, and surprisingly I've lost about 10% battery charge overnight. I'll have to do some maths and work out what that equates to and all that jazz, but there's been absolutely no loads on the inverter overnight, so that's just standby power on the inverter. Like idle consumption, that's quite high. It's either idle consumption or the batteries discharging back through. Hold the line cooler. The multimeter on with the CT clamp is showing, well, it's fluctuating, it's surging up and down to nearly a whole amp. It goes down to 0 and then pings up to nearly an amp, 0.9 of an amp, and then back down to 0 again and back up again. So standby consumption on the inverter is quite crap, but that's what you get for cheap Chinese, I suppose. I'll monitor it and see what happens, and maybe think about some blocking diodes for the solar panels. They're only quite cheap. Maybe a good idea. Alright then. See you later.